Teaching is unnatural. Learning is natural. So we have to actually confront what is artificial intelligence.
When I talk about creative thinking or creative consciousness, especially in India, everybody thinks, why are you doing it? What does it mean? God knew that human beings are such fools. If you give the faculty of breathing voluntary to them, they may forget or they may screw it up.
If you actually start seeing the world, you will only see beauty. The problem is that we don't see.
Beauty is derived from rhythm. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Brutally Honest. There are thousands of podcasts, thousands of books. Everybody in this modern world is a content creator and an expert. And I believe we live in a world of crowd, and that's why we are more confused. But even then, there are some experts who are genuine experts of a particular subject or theme. Who's an expert? Somebody who spent all his life probing, inquiring, learning, understanding a particular theme, subject, or an aspect of life. And not only that, practiced it and propagated it. There are very few people left like that. There are two themes which are my passion. One, how education is destroying younger generations for life. And second thing is our two fundamental rights, to breathe and to imagine, to be creative. I think creativity is a fundamental right of a human being. And I have rarely found somebody who's also working on the same themes. So let me introduce amazing person, my senior, but somebody who should be my guru. But I'm sorry, I'm doing a podcast, Mr. Jinan KB. Welcome to this show.
Thank you.
Okay, when I talk about creative thinking or creative consciousness, especially in India, not in Europe and America, but in India, when I talk about these subjects, everybody thinks that, why are you doing it? What does it mean? People don't even understand the value of creativity in human life. And you have spent almost all your life doing this. So today, primarily, we'll discuss two themes. But before that, let me tell you, you live in Kerala, am I right?
Yes.
And what does Jinan means? What's your name? Jinan KB. A lot of people may not understand.
Actually, Jinan, my father was a teacher, Hindi teacher. So actually came from Jinendra.
In Kerala.
In Kerala. Jinendra,
Yeah.
Jainendra.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a poet, no? It has come from that. But on probing the meaning, one found that it was given to Mahavira
Yeah.
and Jina.
So it's coming from Gyan.
Jina is someone who has conquered the senses or something like that, one who has realized or something like that. I'm not too sure about it, but it has to do with, enquiry, I think,
So you teach in IIT Bombay. You also teach in IIT, other IITs,
Triple
and
IT.
triple ITs, different places. And as I read, you have been doing ongoing research on true nature of learning.
Yeah.
Besides that, you are modernity, modern schooling, all these things you have been researching and working on for last 3 decades. You also run Existential Knowledge Foundation, Being Academy, and Initiating Inquiry. These are all NGOs.
Yeah, all these are, initiatives, but is attempting to get more and more people, understand the whole crisis of what is to be human in the modern context,
Yeah.
What
And
is-
you have also written a book called Initiating Inquiry,
Inquiry.
Reclaiming Ourselves, Saving Our Children.
Yes.
Okay, now the floor is yours. Why should anybody care about creativity or children? Or we have a great education system for 75 years, as our governments claim. We have private universities; they also claim they are giving the world's best education. Why there's a need for creativity and educational reforms? Just
Yeah.
elaborate
Yeah.
and speak for as long as you want.
Yeah. You see, as far as the third world is concerned, well, I will extend this not just to India, but the whole third world, because they are just depending on Western knowledge. So what great education can you give if the story is not yours? And this is true of all the third world, not just India. So that is one primary question that I began to ask. But before that, while I was doing engineering, I began to wonder that why there is no knowledge creation in this country. Why are we just learning what the West is talking about? So initially, I was not politically conscious of this. Then I understood that the whole thing is nothing but a recolonization of our minds. But on deeper inquiry, I found that education, wherever it is destroying humanity.
Wherever it is.
Wherever it is. And West is doing it far deeper. This is the problem, that we stop at inquiring what is the political damage. But when I began to live with rural tribal communities, I realized a very fundamental aspect, which is that literates learn the word, illiterates learn the world. Understood, no? And that made a complete change in my understanding of what is happening. Because see, biologically we are designed or equipped to learn the world. But we are all learning the word. Basically, we are not even learning the word, we are being taught the word. So I actually stopped reading completely. In 91, I stopped reading completely.
I started doing it 4 or 5 years ago. And in fact more, for last 10 years. I realized what's the point of reading all these things, the same knowledge which is being circulated.
Absolutely.
And I'm not learning anything new.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give me an option to be free.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me an option to imagine. Absolutely. And there is a way, there are kind of templates through which you are told everything. So my first philosophy I adopted was destroy everything around you. So anyway, that's how my journey started, but it's not about me. I want to know.
No, see, more the mistake that many Indians make is that they assume that what is happening in the West is good. This is the biggest, crisis. Actually, what is happening in the West is worst. Because the West is leading the world today, and they are straight leading us to destruction.
But there are few things good about them. For example, critical thinking.
No, critical thinking again is a nonsense that the West has created.
Really?
Precisely because, see, what can you be critical of? From where are you being critical of? You see, when you're reading, West is also reading books only. So you read one book and then become critical of another book. You see, you can only be critical when you have an authentic understanding of the world, which is acquired through your senses, not through reading. So, see what happened when as I started living in the rural tribal areas, I began to inquire into two fundamental research. One is, what is the biological process of being? What are our biological, how cognition is biological, how beauty is biological, how values are biological. Because all living beings are learning beings. A worm is learning, a tree is learning, a dog is learning, everything is actually learning. So I began to inquire into what is learning. Why are we given senses? And the other thing I started inquiring is, what is the cognitive damage that literacy does to you? Because this is something that nobody has dared to ask. I think the biggest damage we have done to our own selves is through literacy. Because people have not inquired into this. Because, we think this is the package, the damage of the package is that, we assume that we are better than illiterates. Because the word itself says that, we are literates, they are illiterates. So that very, or educated and uneducated. These are the traps that make you believe that you're superior. And you don't even question that. You understand?
And in India, very often you will see, if something happens, somebody will say, "अरे आप तो पढ़े लिखे हो, आप ऐसा क्यों? आप जैसे educated लोग भी ऐसे ही करेंगे." As if anger, violence, hatred, division it's like education subsides.
No, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
It is opposite. You see, this whole, I have, after I stopped reading completely, I shifted my cognitive system completely. There is these.
Please explain from where to where you.
These are two different cognitive systems. What I mean by system is the cognitive source, the learning source for a literate is the book, whereas for the illiterate is the world. Okay, and the cognitive tool is your senses for the non-literate. They see, right? And the cognitive process is exploration, and the cognitive the understanding comes from self-organization with no effort. Which, I'll give you an example. How did we learn our mother tongue? We made no effort. Understanding took place. There was no effort, egoistic effort. So learning that way is a self-organizing system in which you don't have to make an attempt to understand. Understanding will happen to you provided you're paying attention. This is all what you should do. But in the other system, the book is the source. You read, you think, you understand. So everything happens inside you. You are disconnected from the world. You are in the book, you're reading, you're thinking, you're reading, you're thinking. So you're creating everything within your thing with no external input of the senses. In fact, we have discarded the body and the senses.
Yeah.
So the whole definition of modernity is that only.
And we have divided now, also we have, see, my problem with education is education divides. It fragments. It creates fragments. It creates parts. So now they have also divided human body. They say mind and body. As if mind is coming from somewhere else. You can put it in a locker and body is very different. But I think mind is also as intelligent as your stomach or as your lungs.
No. See, the problem is that if you actually study the impact of literacy, literacy is what divides the body and mind. I'll tell you how.
Tell me how.
You see, we'll take an example of, one day there are many examples, but I'll give you one example. See, in the classroom, the body is experiencing the world choicelessly. Because our senses, over the senses and experience, we don't have a choice. If it is hot, we will feel the heat. Right? So the body is cognizing. But what happens in a classroom, you think, that actually nobody likes to go to classrooms. But you have to sit there somehow. And the body is experiencing the teacher's anger or happiness, or if she is good, then, all that kind of emotional aspect the body is experiencing. What is the mind doing? Mind is learning the teacher, the physics and mathematics the teacher is telling. Understand? Huh? So the body is actually experiencing the teacher. Body is learning the teacher. The mind is learning what is being said. So what happens is that because literacy denies the body. Literacy only needs language and mind. Understand? So actually it is literacy, the beginning of fragmentation of body and
articulation of a new argument or re-articulation of the same argument.
This is all what the literate can do because they are sources of book, not the real world. No? So the whole processing system has been damaged because you got into literacy. You see, why it is very important to understand this is because the AI is going to take away everything that we have been doing. So we have to actually confront what is artificial intelligence. Now, what I say is that artificial intelligence is a result of an artificial cognition which started from books. Reading and all that, it made you into a thinker, into somebody who is into calculations, into computation, into analysis, into reasoning. You see? So an over-reasoned object is what artificial intelligence is. We see, artificial intelligence, you have to put input, external source. So there is see, the difference between an educated person and an artificial intelligent machine is very simple. One is just an exaggerated aspect of this only. You can read 10 books, they can read million books. That's the only difference.
And the knowledge of or intelligence of AI will depend on the intelligence of this person who's feeding the data.
Yes.
So now what is happening is if the machines are learning, all the times by what we put the inputs in ChatGPT or wherever in the AI platforms, whatever inputs we put. Now the problem is, I personally believe, and I have no shame in saying that the modern education system has converted most of our population, or 95-98% of the population, into dumb victims of hyper-materialism and consumerism.
Absolutely, they're clones.
So all these dumb people who are fighting all the times, people who are not creating anything, people who have nothing to do with creativity, imagination, or the finer aspects of life, philosophy, music, art, culture, where you require real touch of farming, pottery, carpentry, and so many things. So it will tell you what is the best thing. Now it is going to be exploited by politicians, by religious gurus, by education institutes. You know, now if Harvard has more money, then Harvard will keep pushing this agenda that I'm number one, I'm the best.
Absolutely.
Okay, so who is creating this artificial intelligence? We have to first, I believe, we need to inquire about the intelligence of that person also. You know?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that, so what I did was, I began to study how children actually learn. See, if you look at the whole paradigm of modern education, it is about teaching. It is not about learning.
Yeah.
So the question that was asked was how children learn. So all their research and their answers stemming from that question, how to teach. So you have the book, you have a school, you created teachers, you have teaching methods, everything came into being. So when I lived in the village, I began to ask this question, how children learn? So when you ask this question, how children learn, then the only thing you can do is to observe how children learn. Correct, no? So I began to observe children and I began to document what they do. So I have thousands of videos and images of what spontaneously children do. For example, when they...
Please share a few things,
Absolutely. I'll tell you a very simple example. That every child, when they got the notebook, they must have kept the book like this. Correct, no? You would have kept the book like this. And what did you say? As a child, this is called a house.
Yeah, it's a house.
Correct?
Yeah.
So why is it every child is doing it?
I've done it.
This is what I'm telling. Na? I found that there are activities that children do all over the world, which is actually innately driven. You know. Then I found that there is an exact, very, very like digestion. Na? We don't digest differently wherever we are. No. We may eat different food, but digestion would be the same. So the process of comprehension or the process of understanding, the process that, from the moment the external input the senses gives, then the process is happening within you, like food. This is the biological aspect of cognition. This I found that, so there is a clear grammar or a clear rule for learning the real world. It's about form, how things look, function, what is the function of that, then process, how do you make that, structure, materials. For example, when children sit on a sofa, why do they do this? Every child does this now.
Because they're learning the
materiality, the softness of that is enabling them. This is what they're doing, and every child is doing it. Every child is making, this. For example, another thing is that I'm sure as children, you take bedsheet over it, put bedsheet over a table, and say that's a house. Or put 2-3 umbrellas around, keep it together, and they play inside and say that's a house.
Yeah.
So they create a contained space, and say that's a house. So that's a function of house, na. Function of house is a contained space, a space, na. So they recreate a contained space with whatever is available. I find that all over the world these children are doing this. So I found that there is a clear rule in understanding the real world. Like, for example, we all learn to speak mother tongue without knowing grammar. But there is an implicit grammar which is there, which is enabling us to learn. Na? So that implicit thing is what is happening even in the real world learning. The grammar of learning the real world.
Here I have a dilemma.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been trying to understand human mind, creativity. My focus is on creativity. Now here I have a dilemma. So you automatically, organically, naturally, you learn language. Second thing you learn is expression, how to express yourself. Or some people are passive, some are active, another thing. But your eyes and everything speaks. But while you are learning language, with language you are also restricting yourself. Because then with language you are also learning a certain kind of faith system. Certain kind of belief system, certain kind of ritual system, and your opinions are formed on those cognitive years. First 7 years, I believe in Indian Hindu philosophy, they say first 7 years. Some Americans say 5 years. But whatever, the childhood,
that doesn't matter.
and then we are suddenly we are contained into identities. Okay, now I'm a child, now I'm a teen, I'm an adult, now I'm a grown up, so I must behave like this in these situations,
Yeah.
which is fine from sociological point of view, but it is also dulling your mind. It is also making you your mind very caged, in a template, in a format.
yeah.
Okay, so creativity breaks form. Creativity rebels against shape.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we are containing a child
Yeah.
into that. So, what is the right thing? Let the child, whatever you have organically learned, is that your life, the backbone of your life, or you disrupt it, destroy it, break away from it, and try to understand the world from a totally new point of view. This is, I think, is a midlife crisis for everyone.
That's a midlife crisis.
Yeah, but
you're right.
But it occurs because of that.
So, see, the way I actually look at creativity from a life's perspective.
Define creativity first.
Yeah. To me, creativity is that is given by life. It's not a human invention.
Yeah.
And it is responding to unknown. Because in the modern context, it's permutation combination. Because they are always responding to the known. Within the known, they are doing a jugglery and telling that is creativity. And I actually call modern creativity destructivity. Precisely because this is egoistic creativity. Because, see, creativity is given by life to sustain life. That's the bottom line. The very crisis that we are now encountering of, unsustainability comes from an egoistic, destructive mind. So, creativity is given by life, and every living being has certain amount of creativity. A dog also has to be creative. What I'm telling is that creativity is a response to the unknown. What is unknown? And we are in the actual life, they are always encountering the unknown. So the known is what modernity imposes every time. Because we always need instructions, no? Everything there is instruction, everything there is help, everything there is somebody teaching. So modernity is in a known paradigm.
And your success and status in the society depends on how much you know.
Absolutely. And only memory-wise.
But in Hindu philosophy and then later on in Zen also, they emphasized on the concept of I don't know. I don't know. They said the best mind is which doesn't know.
Absolutely. See, the difference is this, that I talk about process orientation and product orientation. See, whole modern, we call it modern knowledge.
Please explain this.
I'll tell you. See, modernity is a result of knowledge as a product, as a noun. Whereas in indigenous illiterate societies, knowing is a process. What I say is that sensing, feeling, being, knowing is incidental. You see, no, this is not important because you're already doing it. Now. See, you ask a potter, a traditional potter will find it very difficult to teach anybody.
Yeah.
But they will do it.
Yeah.
But this very idea of teaching is new. See, I'll tell you one interesting thing. A friend of mine once near Missouri went to a village. He was living there. So those days, about 40 years ago, he was telling me that these people did not have a word for teaching. See, because teaching is unnatural. Learning is natural. Teaching is unnatural. So what that village people were telling him was that, can you learn our children? You see?
I've understood.
So the very notion of teaching is a modern import. That people don't understand this. Because learning is what is natural. Teaching is not. In fact, I have some very interesting video of a chimpanzee child learning to do something to break a nut open. And there are adults sitting there here and there doing it. They are just doing their job. Slowly the chimpanzee child goes there, looks at what is happening, come back and does it, So there is no teaching, there is learning. Because that is the nature of life, is to learn. No? Because without learning, there is no life.
Yeah.
That is part of life. No? So we assume that these are all new things that we have to acquire. See, there's a very interesting story that Osho says. I convert a little bit to my convenience. He says the story is, there's a centipede, 100 feet, he's walking, and the frog sees this centipede and is surprised that how does he, and so he's asking, how do you know which leg to put? So the centipede stands for a minute and start wondering now which is the leg that I should be putting.
Yeah.
And it forgot how to put. This is exactly what has happened to modern human beings.
Oh, yeah.
Learning is such a flow that you never questioned, that how you learn. But modernity got completely confused and they've now lost how to learn.
Yeah, so this
Because
is
learning is the most natural thing, no?
true. And here I must share this. I'm sure you have read about it. This famous NASA research. I always give that example.
Yeah.
So they conducted. They said, okay, we want to recruit people who are creative genius.
Yeah.
Because it's a matter of who should be able to imagine and about the space and the multiverses and cosmos and super duper cosmos and things like that, should be able to imagine lots of things, like when you're sending the rocket, what can go wrong. So a world of imagination. So for that we need creative this thing. So they said, why don't we groom them, mentor them from childhood itself? So they conducted a research when these children entered the school at age of 5.
Yeah.
And almost 98% children were tested creative genius.
Yeah. I'm familiar with this.
You know this theory, na? But
Yeah.
so and 2% were creative duffers. Then they got excited. They said, let's again evaluate these kids when they are 10 years old.
Yeah.
And when they were 10 years old, then the whole statistics changed, and they were now some 53% odd were creative genius, rest were duffers.
Yeah.
Then they again conducted when they were 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And this time almost 13% were creative genius, rest were all creative duffers. Then finally they conducted when they were age 20.
Yeah.
And now the results had reversed.
Yeah.
Only 2% were creative genius, 98% were creative duffers.
Yeah.
This is what American education system has done to kids.
Yeah.
Which simply goes on to state that modern education system, let me just take 30 seconds. Okay. I'll put my hypothesis. I want to learn from you. I believe that this structured education system was started because this world has always been at war, and either we needed trained soldiers. So everything started with war. Okay, and we wanted soldiers, so we started training them and giving them various knowledge and all that. But there were 2-3 very essential things we had to train them with, be it soldiers for the farm, be it the soldiers for the factories, or be it the soldier on the front. Loyalty, obedience, okay, and creating a uniform system and structure so that every morning, every day, night you do that. I mean, you cannot forget that you have to work 9 to 5. So you cannot experiment with that. You have to come. And because of that, what we have taken is creativity out of human mind. We are born with 2 great things, God's gift. One, we can breathe, which is involuntary. God knew that human beings are such fools. If you give the faculty of breathing voluntary to them, they may forget or they may screw it up. So they made it involuntary. And the second thing, I think, is imagination. You leave even a small child in a dark room. The child creates a world, imagines something, create characters, and creates a total world which does not exist. And I think that is the beauty of children's creativity. What happens when we put them in school? Why by age 20 we are converting? It's like our education system is a factory. We are putting creative genius. What is coming out is a duffer. What is your interpretation?
See, there is an over-exaggerated idea about imagination because this is a result of Western.
Okay.
They have, somehow they have told that imagination is very important. But to me now, the most important thing is observation. We have completely killed observation because senses are dysfunctional.
Why do you say that?
Because we are always reading. Always reading. See, I talk about imaginary imagination. Imaginary imagination is because you're always reading and imagining stories, So modern people actually have imaginary imagination because they have nothing to imagine with. They don't know the world, na?
Oh, brilliant.
See, I'll give you one simple example. I keep asking modern educated people to imagine the earth. Imagine the earth. And I've done it in many, many places. And there are 2 types of answers I get. What have they seen? One is that first I asked them, what is the size of the earth that you saw? I have only got some people yesterday, day before, this is the size that they imagined. Another one told it is slightly bigger, like a basketball. This is the modern man's imagination. A basketball. And some of them say that they saw a picture of NASA's photograph of the Earth from the outer space.
I'm sure maximum will imagine that.
This is the educated mind. I also give them another simple activity. I tell them, imagine you are in Delhi. Imagine traveling to Cochin. And now imagine traveling back to Delhi. Now, for an educated mind, traveling to Delhi from Cochin, they are coming down, or Cochin to Delhi, they are going up. Which means if you keep a ball in Delhi, it should roll down to Cochin. Na? You see, this is the way
because if we say airplane maps, so it goes up and down.
What I'm telling is that without your knowledge, you have created a two-dimensional realm in which you are operating. This is the matrix. That because of books and reading and all that, you have created a two-dimensional realm in your head. And this is because of literacy. See, there are two fundamental changes, biological changes that you...
On maximum, we see three dimensions. That's a maximum.
See, I won't get into 4 and 5 because I don't know anything like that. See, one rule I have is that, which is actually, that don't imagine what is not seen.
There.
What I can't see. It could be there, but I can't see. Fourth dimension could be there, but I can't see it. Right? So I don't really engage with...
But a lot of modern religious gurus talk a lot about dimensions, dimensions.
So one simple rule that I have kept is that don't conceptualize, don't imagine, don't speculate. No speculation. What I see. Simple. There's a cup, I see it.
But that's a very Hindu way of looking at things, from where Zen and everything has emerged, Just observe, do nothing.
Absolutely.
So like this, there's a great story. This student goes to a great sage and he says, I want to learn about you are such a enlightened person. I want to learn about life and enlightenment and everything. So he says, okay, sit next to me. So he kept sitting for 3, 4, 5 days. He got bored. He said, what am I learning? He says, nothing, just watch the leaves fall and see the river flow. That's it. There's nothing to learn.
But that seeing is not there, na? So rooting oneself to the senses. So I do this workshop called Sensitizing Senses. So basically, it's about how do you reawaken your senses. I talk about resetting oneself, reset oneself.
Or senses.
Reset the whole being. Senses, of course. Once you're rooted in the senses, it will function automatically. But you're not aware.
I agree with you. So I believe in the same things. But for the audience's benefit, I want to raise some questions which should be raised at this. People ask me, so I'm asking. You are saying that get rid of senses?
No. Senses are the only tools we have.
Okay, fine. So you are saying senses are the most important thing.
Absolutely.
So in a hierarchy of importance in body, you'll put senses at the top.
Absolutely. Because that is the indriya, that gives input.
But now, lots of religious gurus and philosophers, some who I respect, whom I respect a lot, they say get rid of senses, don't believe in senses are illusionary, and there is something unknown which is much, much bigger, and only when you stop believing in what you see, what you smell, what you do, then you understand God and all those kind. Lots of gurus talk about that. Okay, I don't agree with them, but a lot of people agree with that. They say,
maybe, but I'm not really concerned.
Like taste, they are anti-taste.
No, to me, if you have to live in this world, you have to have your senses.
Okay.
All living beings are given senses. Understand? If you go into the other world, you can do all that. But I'm not interested actually. Because I don't understand what is Atma, what is soul. Nothing I understand actually. I don't even understand God. That doesn't mean I don't deny it.
Do you call yourself a rationalist?
No, I'm not a rationalist.
Then atheist?
I'm none of this. I don't know what all that means. I simply know that I have senses. And this is given by life. Here I can call, because every living being has been given various senses. And there is a hierarchy given by life.
5 senses, or there is a 6th sense also?
6th sense, वो है बोल रहा है मेरे को, मतलब intuition तो चलता ही है. That is beyond what I can sense. That is there, definitely. Because I know when I'm thinking of my daughter and she's calling me from there. So something is, and it's not once, several times is happening. So intuition definitely is there because that is experienced, Other than that, we have 5 senses through which we get input of the real world.
So there is a logic for that.
Huh.
There is a logic which is a logic of pattern. Okay, like for example, I get up in the morning and I feel something is going to go wrong today. Okay, with something.
Yeah.
So it's not an intuition and instinct. That's what modern science is claiming and saying. It's a pattern. You did something, your subconscious mind has registered that you did on day, to say today's day 10 of something you started. So your mind knows you did that, so this will happen, then this will happen, this will happen, this will happen, because there's a pattern, and your subconscious mind is telling you as an instinct, this may happen, so be careful. It's basically animal instinct. So you are not afraid of that, or you know how to tackle it, you know. So like animals develop this intelligence that they say, they realize that, okay, today the lion may come at this time. You know, there have been experiments. It's not that there have been experiments. And they have seen with monkeys. Okay, monkeys on a particular time, all of them climb the trees because they know lion is coming.
I think they have a different communication with the world. For example, when that tsunami happened, the tribals also went up now. Went up the hill. They were saved now. So they have a different connect. See, I think the rational mind has disconnected us from the world. You see, what is happening is that that's why I call about existential knowledge. It's not modern knowledge. Existential knowledge means given by life to sustain life. That's what it is. And what happens in the modern situation is that it denies the body's intelligence. Body has been living for thousands and millions of years. No? We have been there, no? In some form of the other. You know? So there is something that is within us which has been completely denied because we are completely depending on a bookish nonsense without allowing the whole universal knowledge that is already there in us
and
to
all
function.
Bookish knowledge is incomplete knowledge and one person's interpretation.
Absolutely. Because that this is what I feel. I'm not belittling. You can always read.
But what about science? If you don't read science, how will you survive in this?
No, I think so. What I say is that science is nothing but I today talk about implicit knowledge. All living beings have implicit knowledge of things when they are engaging with it. So, like the way grammar got implicitly within us, it got embedded within us, exactly like that, knowledge of life gets, that implicit knowledge gets in as you're engaging with the world. I'll give you a very good example. My brother's son did not go to school for 12 years. He was in the farm doing all kinds of things. He was in the farm. Whole day he's doing something or the other, experimenting, whatever he likes. Experimenting is a dirty word. Playing around with objects, different things he was doing. After 12, he found a good school nearby. What I mean by a good school is a government school where teachers don't go. That is, children have freedom, Once in a while, because this happiness nonsense that they are now talking about, happiness school. What a oxymoron that is. With these two cannot match. If you remember your childhood, when were you happy when a teacher doesn't come?
School are closed or teacher hasn't come.
Absolutely, So this is a nonsense they are doing. But anyway, so here what happened was that he went into the school and there was some education was happening here and there. So in 12th, we found that he got good marks in mathematics, physics and chemistry. Right? So what really happened was that implicitly he knew the rules of life, rules of science. Understand? So when I remember, because when he was a child, he was asking all kinds of questions, which every child asks, which we keep on stopping. Simple question, 2 questions I'll tell you. One was that he was with his father on a bike. So he told that he was asked that how does an aeroplane turn? So my brother told like this, somewhere in a bike he was going, like this he will turn. And he said, no, it can't be, because on which is the turning happening? 5-6-year-old child? Other thing was that there was a slanting thing on which something was rolling and something was dragging. He was asking, why is this dragging and why is this rolling? So you see, what I'm trying to say is that children, if you don't interfere at all, they are creating implicit knowledge of the world. Absolutely. By sending children to school, you are completely killing this process and you're actually separating true knowledge from them at all. Because I have hardly met anybody who is truly in love with knowledge.
Oh, true. And another problem with knowledge is, modern education is, that somehow it is conditioning you, like intoxicating you, and telling you that you have to be busy all the times. You have to keep working. You have to do this whole, and you have to have things.
Yeah.
So we are surrounded by things and things and things. Something or the other is always going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And people have forgotten how to relax and just sit and chat without looking at the time.
Yeah.
And second thing is being busy all the time. And I got interested, so I started doing a research. I said, how many people who I am influenced by, how many of them are educated, and second, what designations they held, and what kind of people they were. And you will find that 9 out of 10 people who have influenced me in life, okay, they were never busy people. They are some of the laziest people. They are, in fact, one scientist I really like who talks a lot about life, creativity, and all. And so he used to just lie down in his bathtub most of the day and drinking and all. Wrote some of the best poetic explanations.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that is the problem. And therefore, what the West has done, they have made the world believe that creativity means music, art,
Yeah.
music, painting, and music, painting, and things, singing, and all that.
Yeah.
But I always say they are skills. You can teach anybody how to play a guitar.
Yeah.
You know, these are 7 notes and permutations, combinations, and with lot of practice,
Yeah.
you can learn.
Yeah.
But you can compose music, you can create tunes
Yeah.
only when you observe the world, when you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought, that it's not necessary to be all the time busy and talking in terms of jargon and terms and complex things. You can also express very creatively with very simple language.
Yeah.
You know, like Maharshi Ramana hardly spoke.
Absolutely.
Okay, but then his knowledge is more useful to me with few sentences than all these books I have read.
Yeah.
So tell me, you tell me, what do you think is wrong? We won't get in the West.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll talk about things we can control. About Indian education system. If you have to pick up, please tell me what's wrong with it.
Yeah. No, there is nothing right about education. Let's start from there. Because all education is about teaching. So when you told me about, introduced me about a teacher, teaching in this place. No, I don't teach at all. Actually, I try and create a situation for learning to take place and knowledge creation to happen. And I've been experimenting with this for lot of, right from the time I began to work with artisan communities. So this is something that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, show me.
This, this is a book where, I worked with traditional potters in Kerala, where I experiment with no teaching at all. Kumbha murals. And we created really high-class work with no teaching at all.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that work and maybe,
Amazing stuff. All these murals are made by them?
Yeah.
These looks like huge ones.
Yeah, not only
30 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah, very original work. And the thing is that originality is also something that is life-given, which we completely kill because we are taught. So, you see, I'll tell you what is the fundamental issue of modern education. Let's call it modern education. Let's not separate it.
Yeah, modern
there is
education system.
Yeah, you see, it simply doesn't understand the cognitive processes that enables us to create knowledge. Understand? Because every living being, every human being is meant for creating knowledge. But implicit knowledge begins with, And see, I have actually looked at what is called as a cognitive foundation. So there are 2 types of foundations. The modern cognitive foundation is for analysis, linguistic analysis of information. Whereas natural cognitive foundation is for creation of knowledge, in which the first layer is senses. So sensory inputs, and then self-exploration of the world, playful exploration of the world. And that enables a development of a cognitive process that is meant for creating knowledge. So creativity ultimately is there, because you're spontaneous, you're playful, you're open. So, see, the first 7 years.
So is creativity that is essential to life, we understand.
Yeah.
And creativity is there with us all the times. Every breath we take, there is something.
Absolutely.
A housewife can also be creative.
They are creative. See, modernity has created a little problem in this. They have actually made 90% uncreative. And what I believe is that the rest 10% have to now take the burden of being creative.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why in the West many creative people commit suicide.
Yeah, true.
If you look at Artaud or Rimbaud or Rilke or any creative people in the West who are actually outsiders, either they have committed suicide or turned mad.
And most creative people are outsiders.
Outsiders.
And these 90% uncreative people,
Yeah.
or what I call them creative duffers.
Yeah, that has been created. They are not villains.
Yeah,
They are
no.
victims of a situation.
Yeah, they are victims,
Yeah.
but they have the authority and the power to decide
That is
how
now.
creativity should survive in this world.
Absolutely. Today that's a tragedy.
And they are fixing a price of creativity.
Yeah.
There's a painting. Who's fixing the price of that painting?
So today,
Like, for example, you made it.
Yeah.
Who's going to fix the price of
Absolutely.
this? Some business guy in Amazon or somewhere, and he's
Yeah,
going to fix.
yeah,
So most uncreative people are fixing price for creativity.
So modernity, basically, the mediocre has completely taken over, and they will decide how things should. So there is no
And
excellence anywhere.
That brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
So after education system, and I'm talking in the context of India.
Yeah.
Okay, I read somewhere. I mean, a lot of people don't like when I say it. These in modern times, a lot of people have
Yeah,
problems with that in India. But I read a report. It says that we are producing the most mediocre young people
It's true.
in this country, and India is a country of mediocrity.
Absolutely.
Please
I
give
agree
me your
with that.
views on this.
No, I agree with that. See, modern education can only create mediocre people because we are constantly making them read somebody else's nonsense and then, testing their memory. And we call it intelligence. This is not right at all.
And they have no goal. Their only goal is to find a job with Microsoft or Google
Absolutely.
or
Or a
Infosys,
government job.
or
There
a
are two
government
options.
job.
Yeah, that's all.
Or become a middleman or kind of a part of
Yeah.
the corrupt illegal money and somehow make quick money.
Absolutely.
So these are the only three ambitions we have in
That's
this
because
country.
that is how we have created this whole modern, system.
Yeah, that's why I ask. In last 15-20 years, say 2000 cutoff line. Because
Yeah.
that's where the world changed technologically also.
Yeah,
All the
yeah,
social
yeah.
media, internet became popular. So I say in last 20 years in India, how many poets have we created? How many carpenters we have created? How many kumahars we have created? How many writers, authors we have created? How many free-spirited
Yeah.
people we have created? How many philosophers have we created? And the answer is almost
Absolutely.
a very shameful answer.
Absolutely.
Why
So,
is it happening? Why
is
we are
it-
so bankrupt?
See, I want to tell you one more little critical thing. I find that even people who are now, promoting IKS, they also lost it. But they are also reading Indian knowledge system and talking about it. You see, one thing that has been missing out in the exploration of, this, Vedic systems is that, this is some friends told me, that when sloka is taught to you, it is not explained. Understand that?
Yeah.
You hold it and one actual thing happens, meaning arises. Today, every Tom, Dick and Harry is explaining Gita to you or explaining Patanjali to you. That should never be done.
Yeah, I'm a great believer of
Yeah.
Patanjali and Upanishad.
Yeah.
I don't read interpretation of Upanishad. I want to understand it myself.
Yeah, but that understanding should happen in experience, not through mind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to experience in my life.
Yeah. So the problem is that if you really want to reimagine, this Indian revival, one needs to look into fundamental issues of cognition. That cognition as a process, not a product to be transferred, to be analyzed and stored. In the process, that how do you recreate and relive knowledge? So when I say creativity, I'm also talking about recreativity.
Yeah.
Because
everything is created.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah. Recreativity is basically you are retaining your authenticity and originality.
Yeah.
See, in the Western system, originality is something that one person has and other people follow. Whereas I'm talking about everybody is original, provided you have a space to create. And in tradition, that is how it was. Because there is no teaching. When there is no teaching, everyone is being original and recreating knowledge. See, one more thing that I want to talk about this is difference between information and knowledge. This is very crucial.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everybody thinks they are dealing with knowledge.
Between data and truth.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think data and facts are truth.
It's true, yeah.
This is such a stupid. I mean, I'm troll maximum. Why? The only one thing which they have made a meme out of me in my 15 years of public life. I went to one podcast, somewhere, and he started saying things which didn't make sense to me, and I was not in a confrontational mood. So I said, facts are never facts.
Yeah.
Today's fact is tomorrow's lie or tomorrow's misunderstanding. Facts are changing all the time.
Yeah.
From Earth is flat or moon is farther away from sun. Today we know that moon is closer and sun is farther and Earth is not round. And all those kinds of facts are always changing. Now, I know you as an angry man. That's a fact. I may see you as a compassionate person tomorrow. Okay, so facts are changing. Facts are not absolute. Facts are like milestones you meet on your journey to somewhere. And then it's like you see a milestone. Delhi from here, 1,000 kilometers. You move further, it becomes 900 kilometers. Now, which fact is... So you can never look at a fact in isolation. You have to say, okay, that fact was true when I was at point zero. Now I have moved further, so fact has changed. So fact keeps changing. But people misunderstand knowledge, information, enlightenment. Enlightenment doesn't mean that you have to have a religious or spiritual enlightenment. You can be enlightened about, suppose you go to a village, like you did, and you understood one micro part of the society, you were enlightened. You said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what you did, you practice, and you brought about a change. What is the meaning of enlightenment if you're withdrawing from the society and just you disappear? Then it doesn't matter. Now, my next question to you is, these days everybody is fashionable, everybody is talking about Indian knowledge system. Okay? My question is...
Because there is a lot of money in it.
Yeah. So I ask two questions when I go to universities and somebody invite me. I am critical of that. I say, if I use the word American knowledge system, what comes to your mind? Silicon Valley, modern technology, the Googles, the rocket science, the modern medicine and all those things. When we say Indian knowledge system, the only thing which comes to your mind is Vedas and Upanishad. That's how it's being sold also. You are talking about things which I can't relate with. I do not know the purpose of all those things, Why haven't we added in... An Indian knowledge system is so rich in so many aspects. Why haven't we added anything to it? We have nothing modern or today's or post-independence. We have nothing which we can add to Indian knowledge system. Why
No,
is
actually,
it so?
that's not true.
Then why nobody talks about it?
Because we have completely neglected this aspect right from the beginning. We are so colonized. You see, last week I was with a group of Ayurvedic physicians, who are really concerned about what is happening with modern, educated Ayurvedic physicians.
Okay.
Because, see, the
I want to know.
The paradigm of how learning should take place in the Indian systems are very different from modern systems. And unless we understand this, we are not going to make any change here. For example, I'll tell you about, let's take about Indian classical music. You see, today, the modern interpretation, some teacher will teach. Or example, let's take the idea of Guru. Now, everybody is now talking about Gurukulas. They are creating Gurukulams. And what they are doing is they're just replicating their nonsense just by calling the name Gurukulam. That's all. And if possible, they will find a bearded man like me and make me sit. This is all what they're doing. You see, if you look
both of us have beards, so we can start a Gurukula, right?
Absolutely. You see, the most important thing, if you take any of the Indian classics, Indian traditional books, Upanishad, there's not one place where they talk about teaching. Guru is never teaching anything. Guru is only pointing you to some place, go and learn from there. So the whole idea of teaching is absent actually, which is what modern people are not able to understand. It's actually rediscovering. This is number one. So if you actually take, for example, you take the old classical musicians, see, they're always in process. So when they come and sit for a performance, it's not as if they are giving you a finished product. They are actually in practice actually. So they will also sit, they will try out, and then they will sing, no? You understand, na? So there is always a sense of process which they retain, number one. They are never in a product performed. This is number one. Secondly, you will never see a teacher teaching. There's an environment of learning that happens where you become part of that. Now, this is true of Ayurvedic systems because you see, the Vaidya's children, right from the time in the womb, they are hearing and absorbing what is happening there. So, till about 7 to 12 years, they are constantly seeing what is happening there with no instructions happening. So, that first 7-10 years is extremely important because they are developing a cognitive system meant for creativity and creating knowledge. Because there is no mechanization of their mind. They are free. They are going around, looking at things, doing things, There's no structuring of the mind. So the mind is open, playful, So a system is created. So whether you look at Ayurvedic this thing or traditional music. For example, I remember reading or hearing a documentary on Tabla master, what is it? Zakir Hussain. Fantastic, He was telling there was no teaching at all. So if you actually look at...
The teaching, what, I know this, I come from that parampara, and you know what was teaching? Teacher would say, okay, get me water. He'll say, okay, pick up my slippers, clean the room, wash my utensils. This was teaching. And rest you observe.
Absolutely.
Because he doesn't want to condition your mind.
Absolutely.
And see what West is doing. Because they have to sell products. And entire Western economy is based on product and performance. Okay, performance and entertainment, right?
And creating methods and rules.
So why methods and rules? And I'm an advertising person, I'll tell you why. Why this globalization is a bogus idea. Number one, if you have to sell one product to the entire world, because America has access to the entire world, then what you want, then the entire world should have the same belief system, same behavior, same processes. So they have to uniform and standardize everything. Okay, which means it's not that when you keep a word like Coke, okay, in Nambia somebody understands a different meaning, and in Peru somebody understands different meaning, in Vietnam it's a different meaning. It can't be like that. So they have to have the same desire. Now say for example India. Now India is a market of home drinks. Home drinks means every family makes some kind of drinks, concoctions they do. That is the biggest market in summer. We did a campaign for Coke back in 80s, when it came to India. I launched it in India. So now the whole thing was, the idea was not how to promote Coke. That was not in advertising you always have an objective. Objective was not to promote Coke. Objective was how to take share of this traditional Indian market, which is shikanji and this juice and that juice. India has a list of some 1 lakh different kind of juices and cold drinks for summer, So their idea was that. And how do you do that? When you change the religion, means the food religion of these people who have been consuming that. So what they will do, they will attack Ayurveda, they will attack home remedies, they will say, no, this is not good, that is not good, and everything they'll bring down to chemicals and formulas. So uniformity, standardization and structuring. That's what they call the system. So when you have a systematic way of doing things, right, then you are creating obedient lawyer army for yourself. If you have free thinking people, suppose a child goes and experiences something and feels different, okay, then you are losing one number from the labor force. This is my understanding. The scam, the modern scam with the world, while learning is suffering and creativity is suffering. What do you think?
No, absolutely. So actually the whole modern education standardize your mind. So what is today happening is total homogenization of your sense of beauty and your knowledge. So the absence of knowledge creation is a fundamental problem of modernity. So if you actually take an example of the word creativity, they completely change the definition of it. Song and dance has become creativity. Culture, I'm talking about culture. The word culture.
Song and dance has become culture. That's so shameful. I mean, and India is doing it, I feel so pathetic.
Absolutely.
Do you know something? I became member of Indian Council of Cultural Relations. Okay, and I was happy, but then I realized, cinema was never part of culture. Okay, and in 70 years, they never included films as part of art. But in terms of culture, all we have is folk dance and some music and puppetry show and all those kind of things. But that's not culture.
Absolutely. So you see, basically, in my understanding, culture is that which has three elements: authentic knowledge, authentic sense of beauty, and authentic value system.
True.
These are the three aspects that define a
So
culture.
can we call value system more behavior system? Value system sounds like
no,
there is-
yeah. No. What
something
I actually,
higher.
No. What I actually mean is that that something that rules that are given to sustain life. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So the value system is not in the modern sense. The values for sustaining life.
Yeah, values which is sustained.
That's what I meant.
So repeat, what are the three things you said?
Three
The
things.
learning system?
So you see, I'll make it into why, what, how. I will look at it like this.
Yeah.
So why actually defines
Knowledge.
what should be done, what could be done, which is in terms of for sustaining life, what is required. So, for example, in Kutch, you're not going to overuse water. That's it. That's a why there, na?
Yeah.
So there is a rule. Why becomes the ground in which what and how happens. What is the knowledge? So in Kutch, it will be different. In
Kerala, they won't let 1 meter of land go waste.
Yeah.
You know?
So like that, na? So what is the environment that exists? So near the sea, it will be different. In the hills, it will be different. So what is that? How efficiently those things happen? Efficiency not in the mechanical modern sense, but in the way life has designed this efficiency. So which is actually the sense of beauty, the right thing to do. Aptness. I call it the aptness.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics is part of that.
Yeah.
Aesthetics. See, modernity has distorted all these things. So aesthetics again is a mental idea. It's not a biological aspect
Is
which life has given you.
beauty natural, instinctively,
Absolutely.
human?
Absolutely. Not only human, whole life there is a structure of beauty in which we are existing. So beauty is actually the basic structure of existence.
So what we say Sadachit Anand means blissful joy. Is that the ultimate goal of beauty? They say in Hindu this thing is blissful joy.
I am not reached anywhere there.
You're not?
But I do this very interesting workshop. In all these design schools, what I offer is awakening aesthetic awareness, which is actually just start observing the world. If you actually start seeing the world, you will only see beauty. The problem is that we don't see. So, because beauty is what is everywhere, and every action. For example, if you go to a village, you will look at how people work in the kitchen or any artisan doing any activity, you will find it is extremely rhythmic. And they're not purposely becoming rhythmic. Na?
And they're not stressed about, okay, I have to do this next, do that next.
Absolutely. So that rhythm is already embedded in life. It's not something that you have to plan. Understand?
Now I have learned. See, this is when you talk. Okay, how I am understanding. It's a totally new thing. I won't use the word dimension. I am very embarrassed. Okay, so what I have learned is that, beauty is derived from rhythm. When your rhythm is correct, you feel healthy, you feel peaceful.
Absolutely.
Similarly, beauty without a rhythm cannot be there.
Absolutely.
And so there is a organic, correct me if I'm wrong in understanding what you're saying. So there is a organic, which is a natural rhythm. The rhythm of the nature. And when you sing, so in village, I come from village. In village, what is the thing is that you don't have a watch and you don't have tick 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 time going on. So you adjust to the rhythm of the nature.
Absolutely.
Okay. Whereas in the urban areas or in the modern materialistic world, there is a certain rhythm people are trying to force on us, and therefore we are deprived of beauty in the modern hyper materialistic life. Whereas a non-hyper materialistic life, you find more this thing. Therefore, you have more beauty. I have understood this. Second, I have understood this, that there is no struggle for beautification of anything in organic life.
Absolutely. What they do turns out to be beautiful. Here we have to do something, then add beauty.
We are creating beautification. I say, why do you have to? They say, what is going on? Beautification of the street. Why? Some minister is coming. I say, you've dug up the whole thing, made it ugly, And recently okay, now this is...
Can I add one more?
Yeah, please, sir, please.
So actually, the 5 senses, all this has beauty.
Yeah.
You see, actual our authentic sense of taste, not the modern imposed sense of taste. That's different. So the authentic sense of taste is given to sustain life.
True.
So each sense has its own, aspects of beauty. So body movement also, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So these are all, and this is what actually creates culture. For example, sambar, and also in South there are different types of sambar.
Yeah.
Why? Because contextually what is available.
Yeah.
I
have driven a lot in Kerala.
And environmentally what is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think this sense of taste has to do with sustaining life also. In a particular context, this is what you should be eating. That's why, but that is what is available.
And that's why I believe that whoever, if we are created, has given different taste in different geographical areas to people.
Absolutely. And that's also revived. In the sense, each and every being is sensing that. I'll give you one small example.
Yeah.
You see, one day we were all sitting together, few of us. My child, she was around 5-6 years, a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old. We were eating. And that day was Karela, bitter gourd.
Yeah.
So I was trying to convince my daughter, telling that this is vitamins and all that kind of stuff, But the 20-year-old was not convinced. She is not eating. No chance of, I don't want your theory, you keep to yourself. And the 45-year-old was relishing it. And I didn't have to give a theory there. So I asked her, when did you start eating? She said, till about 17, 18 years, I never ate. One day I felt like eating and I started eating. So that felt like eating is what life gives you. But see, we are not allowing the life to function within us because of the theory. This is the problem. We have all the theories in the head, We are not letting the body and the feeling and senses to function to decide whether it is good for us. It's actually possible. But we have numbed that. We have killed it. Because of all the theories that are going around, vitamin khana chahiye, protein khana chahiye, ye khao, wo khao, pura mental khana chal raha na abhi. Nobody is eating for the body. It's all the mind that is.
Food is the most corrupted market in the world. I think no other industry is as corrupted as food and health.
Yeah. So, one simple definition now we can talk about what is modernity.
Yeah.
Modernity is the mind's takeover of the body's needs. Needs of the body has been completely taken over by the mind. This is what modernity is.
Yeah, true. And a mind can be influenced. And I'll tell you more from advertising point of view. The belief system in advertising is that more mind share I have, if more top of mind things I put in your mind, and more recall value I put in your mind, then you'll buy my product.
Absolutely.
So all this world is trying, the war which is going on in this world is how to influence your mind, how I can get maximum mind share of your mind. That's what every industry, everybody is trying to do that. And I think what creativity does is, I think, very spontaneous, and I don't think it is, because Kumar, say for example, a potter, can he make in Zen they say, can he make two pots which are alike? They say it's impossible. Because he's doing it with his fingers and they are not moving all the times like a machine. And that is the beauty, I think, of the world. That when human is doing it, then you always leave some scope for more learning, more understanding, better creation or something. When machine is doing, you are just making replicas. And that's where I think education system also is facing a problem. Even Zen, there is a very beautiful quote. It says, which is, since you have brought pots in front of me, and I'm very fond of pottery. So they say, which is the best teacup? Because they have tea ceremony in Japan. So which is the best teacup? And the master says, the one which doesn't smell of the fingers of the potter. They're saying ego. You were talking about ego-based knowledge. So he's saying ego-based creation, where it doesn't matter whether you have created it or not.
Absolutely.
You are just creating it for the love of it.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Okay, so I think we have been talking for long. We'll close it also. I'll ask you 5-6 questions, and more like briefly you can tell me, more like opinions, not opinions, your understanding the world. Okay. If you have to pinpoint Let's also talk about ideas. I mean, we cannot just criticize the modern education system. If you have to suggest to the education minister of India, or if you are the education minister of India, what are the 3, 4, 5 fundamental changes you'll make on day one?
Day one.
Yeah.
Up to 7 years, I will close all the schools.
Okay.
No schooling at all. But at the same time, the household should create an environment where processes are happening. I will ban all toys. That's the first thing I do. Because toys are more dangerous than schools. Because children don't need toy at all. Every object is a potential toy. Every activity is done playfully. So this is the whole modern understanding of play, toy and all that are dangerous. They're not right at all. But children turn every activity into play because of playfulness, and every object is a potential toy. Understand? And it is actually through these they understand the world. So what you're doing is that you are now creating a division between learning and playing. You see?
Priyanka, सारे अपने खिलौने फेंको घर से. She just had a daughter and you should throw all the toys from your
Absolutely.
house.
No, all my...
Yeah. I never had toy. हम तो मांगता था मैं तो my parents would say, अरे वो तो रईस लोग खेलते हैं उससे. तुम जिंदगी से सीखो. तो जिंदगी से सीखो. तो my father told me, he was a Sanskrit professor. So he told me, जिंदगी से सीखो. So I have become so...
No, actually we do workshop called Do Nothing Parenting Workshops, where we actually make really parents understand how you are damaging the child. Rather, you should be learning from the child than, because you're already educated and damaged. The child is fresh, alive, playful. Learn from the child. So there are few things that should be done, together. Actually, first thing I will do, there are many first things, I will do is to actually create absolutely fresh research. Setting up a proper research on how children learn, what children learn, and how do they develop their creative system. This is what is completely missing today. So a fresh research on children based on life's propensity for creating. So it's not an egoistic idea. So that's the first thing I will do. Along with that, because you see, I don't believe in research without actual happening. So an ongoing research where you work with parents and teachers, children, and create an environment where children are playful, are doing. So every time there is a proof of what I'm talking about. Understand? Huh?
And so
that's the first
second thing you are saying, 7 years should be the cutoff line.
Yeah. And see, one very important thing you must understand is that whatever knowledge that people are talking about is not knowledge but mental ideas. So what is knowledge? Is that, for example, grammar if you take. All of us knew grammar by the time we reached 3 years, 4 years. Correct? We all knew grammar. That's why we are able to speak very well.
Yeah, new words are added every time.
So this grammar is implicit.
But now what you are saying is...
Let me just complete this.
Yeah.
So this implicit knowledge, so since we already know grammar, we should actually we must understand or we must study how what we know implicitly should be made explicit. So that is actually through metacognition, not through external input. You see, because if you remember, grammar was, when you learned grammar in school, that was the most boring subject.
True.
Correct?
Yeah.
99% of the people tell me this.
Hate
it was the most boring grammar. In spite of knowing grammar, this is what has happened. So I believe that grammar can become the most interesting subject, provided we enable children to metacognize what they already know. Because all learning is nothing but recognizing patterns. All learning is recognizing patterns.
Yeah.
So you create an environment where they begin to pay attention to how they are speaking, why they are speaking, how they are speaking. These are 3 questions that knowledge...
Jiddu Krishnamurti started Rishi Valley with the same kind of concept.
Not really. No, Jiddu didn't start. People around him...
They started.
They started because, and they made a mess of it completely. Jiddu was a different person. This should be separated.
Oh, I thought Jiddu started that.
No, he didn't start.
Oh, somebody else used it.
Else.
So now, since you said all knowledge is mental construct.
Yeah. No, what I'm telling is that all modern knowledge is nothing but, information thought of as knowledge.
So then these people who say that men are not men, women are not women, you can choose whatever you want to be. This concept
My
of
God.
man, woman is a mental construct.
No, this is the biggest nonsense that is happening all around, This
Yeah.
he, she, ke, ku, ki, ku, na? I think we should all write something or the other, A, B, C, D, and, absolute
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah, I say my pronoun is Har Har Mahadev.
Absolute nonsense, because this is a mentally damaged people doing all these things.
Okay.
They simply don't understand what is life. And you know what is happening? If you actually look at all this from the point of view of life, what is life demanding out of you? A new child. So modernity is primarily preoccupied with sex. That is why they are talking about all these things, I'm not telling these things doesn't exist. These issues are there, but don't exaggerate it.
Yeah, and don't make it a general rule.
That's what.
Yeah.
You don't change the, just because, see, in the school that we ran, and any house you go, both boys and girls will play other genders. In the school, the boys would sometimes dress up as girls. But that is a natural thing. But that doesn't mean that you begin to confirm that, no, you are a girl, you are a girl, you are a girl, and then change their sex, no? What is getting promoted? That's what I think, correct, no?
Yeah, true, absolutely. And also making it very fashionable.
Absolutely.
So I was in US recently, and the biggest problem is that even before you get puberty, you are on puberty blockers, so that extend the time. They say, no, let the child decide. Now the problem is, how can a child decide?
No,
child knows nothing.
This is something that
child hasn't learned about sex and...
they have not understood this at all.
Yeah.
You see, what I believe is that, even what I say is that same-sex marriage, I don't mind having same-sex couples and all that. That's not my issue. My issue is that when they adopt a child, you're already given a wrong message to the child. See, the whole problem is that child actually learns not through language, but through experience. So what is the experience the child is having? What is the message that the child is getting? To men is producing me, or to women is producing me? The first lesson of life should be that how life is sustained, how life is created. And the first lesson of life a child learns is to take care. I'm sure any parent would say that, as you feed the child will feed you back. Why is the child doing that? All the first game, the play that children do is to be a mother.
True.
Why? Because the first lesson for any species is to take care. You see?
Wonderful. Now, okay, so one more question I have for you. If somebody asks me what are the things which irritate you most, me, okay, I would say aesthetics of Indian cities, and I think we have become a aesthetically challenged society, So you teach in Institute of Design and you are a design expert. Why, a country which had great architecture, a country which had so much of sense of aesthetics and the beauty which create all kinds of beautiful things around.
Yeah.
If you go to older structures, pre-independent structures, they still are so beautiful. They represent something. They represent the natural resources of that place, because the stone there, sandstone, limestone, which stone they are using, the materials they are using. In some places you use more cotton, in some places you don't use cotton. And then also the local expression. So local expression in terms of sculpting or the art around you. Now the problem is that whichever house you go from Kashmir to Kerala and from east to west, you find they have the same decor, same style, all the rooms are the same. Then, okay, if private builders do it, I totally understand. They may be greedy, they may be more capitalist. But the government of India, which is the custodian of Indian art, culture, heritage and the aesthetics of the country, why is that government of India, all these railway stations and the airports and the government buildings or the Vidhan Sabhas or the government offices, whatever they are building, why the localized regional aesthetics are not giving prominence? How do I know that I have landed in Bombay, which is different from when I land in Kochi, which is different from when I land in Agartala? What has gone wrong with us after independence that we have become one of the
colonized, homogenized,
and aesthetically in a chaos? Look at any city, the signage. Now,
yeah.
signage in a civilized society, everywhere they have standardized signage.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we are full of these dirty hoardings on top of each other with political campaigns,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
color chaos. You know, the.
So, I'll tell you. See, in modern education in India produces two kinds of people. One aesthetically totally damaged, other one distorted. I would say
Damaged and distorted.
aesthetically challenged. That's
Challenged,
another
that's
word,
what I use, the word, yeah.
Aesthetically challenged and aesthetically damaged, distorted. Because whoever has gone through aesthetic education in terms of whether they are design, architecture, art and all that, it's all Western nonsense that is being input. So you have a colonized aesthetic sense in one level. Other people have no idea what beauty is. So if you actually show something beautiful to an engineer, he wouldn't know what to do with that,
That's
He
true.
would rather ask a physics question, they would be happy. This is what is happening.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
actually, see what happens so that's why I'm talking about any rural indigenous aesthetics is because what you do turns out to be beautiful because you're not fragmented. See, the fundamental issue of modernity is fragmentation. That you fragment.
Compartmentalization, yeah.
Yeah, compartmentalization. And that begins with your mind and body getting fragmented, your left brain, right brain getting fragmented, your feminine, masculine system getting fragmented. So every way you're fragmented because of education. So I used to say that long ago, maybe 25, 30 years ago, I had gone to Srinagar. And Srinagar was the only city at that time that had a very authentic sense of beauty. The reason being the architects have not been working there. It is created by common people. See, common people, if you allow them to function, not too educated, they would create things that are beautiful because they are not creating beauty. What they create turns out to be beautiful. So the moment you become conscious of beauty and then you start creating, then you mess it up.
Then you already, because you've got a mental map, you are not exploring it. Yeah, that's.
Because
I
it's
was
a
in
biological
Kerala.
response. Beauty is a biological response.
I was in Kerala for the research of my next film, The Delhi Files, and so I was taken to some illums,
Yeah,
illums,
yeah.
all these old,
Beautiful, yeah.
just 507 year old, and I was building a house here in Mumbai. So I came back and I showed these pictures to my architect. I wrote a lot about it in social media. So I told my architect, why don't we build something like this? He looked at it and he says, yeah, this is Hindu architecture. They used to teach it, but now they don't teach. So I have not learned it. So I can't do it. You have to go to somebody who has studied Hindu architecture. I said, why are you saying Hindu architecture, Mughal architecture? These are the aesthetics which have developed by living in a certain area. People have developed the sense of color and stuff like that. But that's the problem. He has not learned it. What does it mean? How can an architect not learn it? It's like a poet saying that, okay, I know out of 10 emotions, I know 3, I don't specialize in other 7, so I can't write anything about it, So that's...
No, I was telling see, whole modern education is nothing but various distortions of the Western ideas. That's all. So not only that, you see, me and Ranjana, we have been working with parents from different parts of the world. We have also one group, they are Marathi speaking. And what I find is that it is very difficult to engage with English speaking parents because all their ideas come from the Western ideas.
English, yeah.
So it's so difficult to even engage with them. Whereas these people, Marathi speaking, they have not read any book. So it's much easier to make them see the child. The only activity we do is to observe the child, learn from the child. But the moment you talk this to most of the Western educated people, they already have so many theories in their head, Waldorf or Montessori or some conscious parenting, all kinds of nonsense that the West has been promoting, They don't know, just simply look at your child. That's all what we say. They can't. They don't know how to observe also.
See, the urban parents are doing it, I know for sure. They are doing it for their own guilt. They don't have time. So they say, okay, let's take, these days farm visits are very popular. Touching cows and hugging cows is popular. Going to nature is popular. But that is, I say, you are not in nature. You are in manicured, curated nature for you. Okay, this is like Truman Show. You are shown a reality which is not true. It's like saying, okay, you give me a food and you say organic food. It's not organic food. You have created something which is your recipe and it's not organic anymore. You already give it a form and shape. So how is it organic? So this is coming from guilt, because children send them to convent school, and then parents reach age of 40, 45, then they want to go back to their roots. They realize my child doesn't know anything which I knew earlier. So how to cover this guilt? Parents are working day and night, and they don't have time for children. Children are busy with their phones all the times. Parents, I've seen 6-month-old child, parents give them the phone. Child is late and can't talk.
Yeah, it's actually
Child
very
can't
dangerous.
move.
Very
Child
dangerous.
can't do anything, can't even crawl. And child is just sitting and watching some violent cartoons, and parents have no idea, so they feel guilty. That's why they are taking him for eco walks and all these kind of things. That's also a big scam now. Anyway, so we are coming to close this. Another issue I want to raise with you, which very few people do that. Okay, I was in a university a few days ago, a young student was talking to me, and we were talking only on creativity. So we started with creativity, we'll end on creativity. And he said, sir, our country has created so many things. And one thing I definitely know, that the entire Patanjali's yoga, this thing, he never dissected a human body or a human mind. And he understood, okay, human body and human mind just by observing, just by plain observation of living people.
Absolutely.
And that's why that's a concept of healthy life. Whereas the modern medicine has cut people and gone into dead bodies, so they know what to do, how to not make you die. Okay, but healthy living, they have no recipe for that. So the child he was asking me that, is it because, and it's a question in these times, I don't know how to answer that. Is it because this hyper religion which India is engulfed with, that you ask anything, people point back to Vedas and Upanishads and without even reading them? Is it also because of that we are not making any effort to discover new horizons, and this illogical pseudoscience and kinds of blind faith? All these gurus, you ask them anything, they say, oh, it's a dimension you won't understand. What is that a dimension which you can understand and I can't understand, So please explain it to me. Nobody explains that. People claim. I also personally think this is not helping Indian society.
Absolutely.
We don't need so much of religion in our lives. Vedas were abandoned, and that's why Upanishads came, because they had new knowledge. And the modernism in my mind is to find new ideas, new knowledge, inquire and go to different horizons and different planets and different, that is knowledge. Knowledge means the addition. If you don't add anything, then that's a replica. So what are your views about this?
Yeah, you see, actually,
this hyper-religious
absolutely.
education.
No, so what I believe is that there is no difference with when you copy the West or you copy the past. You're a copycat either way. You see? So you cognitively damage yourself when you're copying your own Veda, or you copy the Bible or whatever, the West physics or whatever you're doing. Basically, you're a copycat, and this shift into a process-oriented being is what is required. You're inquiring, you are in process, you are, understand? So, because both are doing analysis, what are they doing? They are reading Patanjali, Yoga Sutra and all that, analyzing, storing in their head, and then replicating it, and only talking about it. See, recently I did a retreat called Natural Cognition, retreat on natural cognition. And there was one PhD person who from Delhi University, Delhi IIT. He had come and participated in my workshop. So it was a five-day workshop in which there wasn't too many discussions, because in natural cognition there's nothing to discuss, there's nothing to argue, because what you're seeing, there's nothing to argue now. When your cognitive system is based on experience, it's not on arguments. Argument is because you're reading. It is in language, no? So he was telling that for the first time he was able to understand the primary principles of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is that you start from, using your senses, See, without using a senses, how can you talk about using senses? The same problem with Montessori. They all know Montessori spoke about senses, but they don't know how to use their senses. They never use their senses. So I believe that to be in the here and now, without the burden of the past or the West, is what is required. That because everybody is authentic, reclaim that. All of your given senses, reclaim it. All of you are meant for creating knowledge. And don't worry about excellence. Worry about authenticity. There's nothing to do with excellence, Don't exaggerate it. Just being authentic, simple, No, that is good enough.
I think in the modern competitive world, not being excellent is excellence.
Yeah.
Not trying to be excellent is excellence,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So wonderful. I think it was great talking to you. But promise me one thing.
Sure.
That we should do more conversations like this.
Absolutely.
आप कहाँ रहते हैं? Where do you live?
I live in Thrissur in Kerala.
Sure, you live. And which is the closest airport?
Cochin?
Kochi?
Yeah.
And
about
how long does it take
55
from Kochi
kilometers.
to reach your place?
About 50 kilometers.
Okay, if I want to spend
1
some
hour.
time with you there, okay,
Please
is
come.
it possible?
Please come.
Is
In fact,
possible?
we can, organize a retreat on beauty. That will be nice.
Let's do that. Yeah, we can do it together, and
Yeah,
I'll come
sure,
there,
sure,
and I'd love
sure.
to talk about these things.
Yeah,
And also, I am planning to start a school of creativity, which is not a school, but how do you tell people?
Yeah, yeah,
have a
I know.
problem. I don't want to call
I
it
have
school.
same problem.
I want to create a school of creativity without any schooling.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, no schooling. Just I want to give an environment where people can explore and learn,
Absolutely.
and. So you have to come and mentor and do
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
There are very few people like you in this country. So I wish you all the best and thanks
Thank
for
you.
talking to
Thank
me.
you. Thank you.
Small gift for you. This is the flag of India, made with the original cloth by Karnataka Khadi Gramodyog, and with specification the weave and all. And a lot of people give different kinds of gifts. I said this is the best gift. Everybody should have it. So this is for you from our foundation, IAmBuddha Foundation. This is one book I have written. It's called The Book of Life. My dance with Buddha for success. But basically, it's about creativity, and not creativity like a theory, but every day-to-day life. For example, swing. I go for walk, and one day I was very stressed about some problem. So I just sat on the swing, because in my park older people don't sit on swing, they think it's only for children. So I said there, some people laughed at me, but that day I discovered that what swing does to you is something nobody, because you're monkeys perhaps, that's why. So lots of smaller things in this, what is creativity, what is the purpose of creativity, and all I've written. And so this is for you, this is my book.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.